And I think it's important to use real-world use cases, and that's why I will show you my personal folder to compare these two models to each other, because it's a huge folder with 168 gigabytes and over 140,000 files in there, all cross-connected, interconnected. A team of 50 agents are in this folder, everything interconnected, and I think that's the right environment that I use on a daily basis for over a year now to see if on a daily work this actually makes sense. So let's dive into this. So I won't use Claude Desktop for this because that's something that makes, in my opinion, no sense to use. As a professional, as a non-coder, it makes no sense to use Claude Desktop. There you have it. Even that you can use Claude Code, at least use Claude Code on desktop, not Cowork, to get the most out of these models for the same pricing. The main reason for this is that on Claude Cowork, it's still using just one single agent, versus in Claude Code, it's spinning off sub-agents and even sub-agents and doing the workflows and things like that. So if you really have more complicated work and you don't just want to just have a chatbot talking to you, that's what I would recommend. And then obviously what we keep saying on this channel, to use a folder that has instructions to guide the LLM, the model, whatever you use. This folder just has a team of some agents. These agents have independent agents.md, not Claude.md, where they have instructions what they can do. So this means there's an orchestrator, Larry, who is picking up what I'm asking for, and he delegates then the work to these different agents who are specific for specific tasks. That's a demo folder in here. I just show you what my personal folder looks like once you start using this over time. And if you open up here the team, you see I'm having over 50 different agents already. And that's just a process where the team hires new agents if there are new needs. And I'm not diving too deep into this in this video. I have many other videos where I talked about this, but that's about it. So we will now test how this new Sonnet versus Opus reacts opening inside the folder to see a comparison how it acts there. So in order to start this, you just right click, new terminal at folder, and here we are, there's our terminal. And I can't repeat enough, no reason to be scared of terminals. They are your best friend when it comes to using AI. You launch Claude and here we are. They already say meet Sonnet 5, smarter and more efficient for everyday work. Yeah, what is everyday work? Where does it end? When should you switch to Opus versus Sonnet? That's the reason why all these companies are wasting so much money on tokens, because so many people using AI for primitive work where they could have used even Haiku in order to do it, and they use models like Opus or even Fable and burn all these tokens for nothing. And that's what you can do if you have a folder like this. You can actually say that different agents using different models. You can just say it, literally say it. So I can say now to Pax, for example, just uses Sonnet 5 now moving forward, and therefore he won't waste a lot of tokens when he's just researching the web. Also Larry, as the orchestrator, is perfectly fine using just Sonnet. I don't need to have Opus because all he needs to understand is the structure of the folder and where to delegate work and so on. Also, I'm always running everything on Opus just to be sure that he's delegating properly, because in my folder with over 160 gigabytes of files and 140,000 files in my folder, there's a lot more to overview, and I have a lot more complicated tasks for him to do, including coding tasks, even as a non-coder. But that's certainly something that you can do if you know perfectly specific agents that don't need to use a high-end model. In order to change the model, I just go to model. It is already here. I switch to Sonnet. And what we need to understand, if I would open now another terminal, this terminal would also run on Sonnet. And if I switch the model in one, it will also switch the other model. That's why we need to get out of here. And I just type Claude model and say Sonnet. Now this launches with Sonnet. You see on top, it used Sonnet. And now I launch this in another terminal and I say Claude model. Here we are, Opus 4.8, Sonnet 5. And now I can make a proper comparison. Otherwise, it would just switch one terminal to the dominant one. Now, bear in mind, both models are looking at this folder and there are basic instructions. So this means Claude already knows who he is based on a persona that I gave him. Okay, so go to Sonnet and say, who are you? Here I say also, who are you? And I hit enter and I hit enter, and let's see, because speed is really the thing that I'm hoping for. Okay, and Sonnet was a lot faster, but as you can see, Opus was more comprehensive. So what I want to do next, I'm here in VS Code now. That's my daily driver where I'm working with my local folder. It is here on the side, my personal local folder, you see by the deliverables. If I go to archive, look at all these things that I worked on in this scaffold alone. So that's the 160 gigabyte folder that I've been talking about. Here's my PKM. Here you see in my journal, it goes all the way back to 2017. And let's see what it can tell us about what I worked on ICOR since 2026. So I will launch on the left Opus and Sonnet. Here we are, Opus 4.8, Sonnet 5. And now I say create a summary of what we've delivered for 2026. What are the different updates? What are the feature releases? And create a HTML report for me to review. Again, I will just copy this over and then let's go. I give even a head start to Opus. And again, we are just on high effort here for both. So here he's already saying, I'm Larry, your team orchestrator. He's identifying himself. He says now, because that's my folder and that's very established, that it's much more likely he picks up the right things. So let me pull together everything we've shipped for myICOR since start 2026, then have Charter build you the HTML. Charter is a team agent that I have in here. Charter, infographic designer. She has an avatar and she has agent files and so on. So that makes sense because these agents are made for making these reports, creating these HTML files. I'm using them on a daily basis and that's the typical workflow that I see. Here, there's no mention of anything like this for now. See, it creates now fork, which is just a random agent that Sonnet created here. And here, what should be in there? Well, let's just use courses and content, platform and product. I like the question. How should the report be organized? Feature releases versus updates, monthly timeline. Let's make a monthly timeline. That's it. Here, nothing. No question, no nothing. So for now, and obviously that's something I need to test more than once to confirm that this is happening. But for now, it seems that Opus is picking up his identity as Larry, the orchestrator, much better than this guy here. He also launches now general purpose extract. There, I could now argue he should use PAX, my research agent, but I usually use PAX to reach out to the web to find information. So I'm fine with this because this is just data gathering, nothing specific to look at. But you see again, he's launching a whole swarm of agents, while Sonnet just launched one agent doing all the job. He's counting session logs. He didn't ask me about anything. Let's see what the end result will be. I think Opus is much more responsive here and telling me what's going on. See, I have what I need for the charter brief and it goes into the guideline 003. So how the scaffold is structured, we have a team knowledge and in here there are guidelines based all on my specific needs and business needs. And here's the guideline design system. So that's what he's saying here. And he will look into this to pick up the design system that the team created for us. And I could show this in a much more nicer way, but I don't care because this is for the agents themselves. But I created this design system. myICOR is based on this. All the social media files, the thumbnails, things like this sits in here. And he perfectly got the point. He will brief Charter now to launch Charter as a sub-agent using this guideline to create this SOP, because we also have SOPs. The whole team works according to as humans would work in a company. That's what myPK is all about, and that's what makes them so efficient. And the quality is the same. So here we go, SOP 007, build an infographic. That's what she's looking up now. Not yet, he's preparing obviously, and that's it. And here, no mention of any like this. You see 150,000 tokens already. We are beyond that because if you sum this up, we are beyond 150. But the question is always about tokens. If I don't get the quality that I need out of the box and I have a lot of back and forth, I would waste a lot more tokens than investing more tokens up front to get something better out of the box. And you can save so much tokens by having a folder like this where everything is crystal clear for the mod, how to work in and what to use and what resources to look up and the guidance and the indexes and all these things. And this also allows to add Codex and Gemini, any other models on this folder, and they would work in a similar manner. So for example, I could perfectly launch here GLM. And you see it launches Claude, but with GLM 5.2 in this, and that's an open source model. And this, what we have here, this Claude interface in a terminal, that's called an harness, and it is just providing the LLM an environment to work in, and GLM can hijack this as you just, it's just an easy setup that you can do here. And now I could have actually launched the same thing here. Let's see, I will just launch this in parallel just for the sake of it to see how far it will go. So just so you see, that's a complete different LLM. It's not Claude Code, it's just inside the harness of Claude Code, but it is an LLM open source that you could even run locally on your machine if you have a beefy one. And we will get back to this to see what's going on. Oh, there we go. All right. He got also Charter on the work now. So you see down here, Charter is now also looking into the guidelines. When we look here, we see exactly what Charter is doing in order to create this HTML. And that's how you get consistent output for whatever you have. By using a scaffold like this that gives you the starting point, and then you just keep using it. I'm using mine. Well, this was built over a year that I was using the team in this way, and now it's available for everybody for free to download. And we know from our members how life-changing this thing is when it comes to token usage, the insights they get, and most importantly, the persistent memory, because they keep learning. The team they have in team knowledge, they have session logs. If you go just in 2006, you see just for June, these are all the session logs just for June. So these are all sessions that I ran in June, and they note down what was good, what didn't work, what could have been improved. Here, April, see? And this is something that's building over time. It's cross-connecting things. The team knows, and as I showed you, the team themselves, they have their own journals. I'm sure if I go into Larry's, here we go, journal. Look at all these journal entries that he just did for himself working with me. So that's why the differentiation, just using one agent for everything versus having a whole team, and those team members learn individually for their specific tasks, that's a huge game changer. All right, here we go. Opus is done. So Charter is now grabbing the sign tokens and does the same. So they're at the same level. This Charter is a bit ahead. But again, I already get a little report up front where I can see how it's going. That makes it easier also to go backwards and understand what happened inside the chat, in my opinion. So to me, this is no downside. Even that you could say, well, it's a waste of tokens because these are all output tokens. But in the end, here I see nothing. I just get an end result and I cannot follow the thought process of the LLM properly. Obviously, this could be all adjusted, but thinking that Anthropic mentioned that Sonnet uses 35% more tokens now than it did before, this will become very expensive for sure. And that's where I don't see the reason to not use Opus. But I'm also pretty sure they will launch Opus 5 after Sonnet 5, and this will become much more expensive again. So the overall costs for AI will increase. And with Fable coming back, we also are already in the API era where we would need to pay API in order to get Fable quality. I'm sure I will make a video about this too, comparing it if it is really worth it. Because after Fable disappeared, I kept using Opus as I did before. And if you look now to GLM, see, GLM, that's a fraction of the cost of Opus. That's why I'm testing this. So even it might be slower, I get the same results. Sometimes I even got better results than Opus when it comes to design, but with a fraction of the cost. And this is luckily happening because this drives competition in the AI market, and we hopefully see improvement in the pricing. But you see, even as GLM, he recognized I'm Larry, your team orchestrator. He is grounding himself. He looked into the delivery report. Okay. He started now looking into this because how this folder works, we have here deliverables inbox where sharing everything that we are working on. So I can work on different things in parallel, and then I can just have the folder and I can look into these folders, and once they are done, they can archive it. So when you go into archive, you see there's a lot of things that I worked on in the past, and that's still there if I need a later reference, and it's all backed up via GitHub as well. So if anything breaks, I can roll things back. But this is how I work every day. So I work on different, as you can see, there are a lot of other terminals open that I'm currently working on. So just so you see that I'm actually using Claude a lot every day. And here we are. The report is ready. and here the report is ready too. You see here down there 12 minutes 52 seconds and here 13 minutes 51 seconds. So Opus was slightly faster delivering this report. And now let's have a look how these look like. And GLM is still working on it because obviously it started a lot later. I will just interrupt him here because, well, I just made my point already clear that this is working too. You see it started working. It launched these general purpose things. I just want to avoid now that it's overwriting my thing. That's usually not something that I do, that I let run 3 different sessions on the same thing. And it's usually completely different things that I do in different sessions. But I try to focus on one specific thing so the whole team stays focused on the thing and I are clear on what are the different tabs are that we are working in. So I will just close and terminate now the session and let's see what the output is. So here we have the report from Sonnet and here we have the report from Opus. So let's open this up and here we are. On the left we have Opus and on the right we have Sonnet. These are the 2 reports and let's see what we delivered. So Sonnet actually added out of the box more details up front and I like the looks because, well, this looks actually better to be honest. And if I start scrolling here, well, we have a legend here and here we have the month and now you guys see also what we delivered in myICOR in the past month. So here we shipped new courses. We shipped also new lessons. In March, this was an insane push. A lot of things, a lot of fixing, releases, updates. April, that was an important one because we have our live coaching sessions and those get now completely automatically transcribed and chapters created for our inner circle members. So you can directly jump into the timestamps. It's many things. So many things, as you can see, it just got more over time. Here we are in May, a lot of things, June, and it's just listed all the things in a very minimalistic fashion, to be honest. And here we have literally just a timeline with the dates where something happened. And it's split into different things. Okay, that's interesting. So it made a feature releases list to just focus on the feature releases. And here we have fixes that were shipped in the past few months and then a scope node. Well, now I could argue which one is better. Do it manually. I cannot blame the model for this, what they chose. Again, it could be by accident that one model has chosen the other way around. But the question is, and that was something I cannot really see here, how comparable these two are. But this is something I can do by asking now Claude. There is another report that was created earlier. Can you compare it to the one that you created and find the differences? And then I just paste in the link to this report. And this is enough because it will not only look into this, but also into the deliverables folder. Well, in this case, it is really just this HTML page versus Opus created an inventory source where there's the whole thing written down as MD file in addition. So I don't care really, but obviously this is again more output tokens that happened in using Opus. What I also could do, I could even point, I don't know if you know this, but you can have every session that you use the chat with has an individual session ID. And I could now use this session, paste it to Opus and say, look into the other session and see what this agent did different than what you did. Okay, I'm not doing this because in this case it makes no sense. But if you're working with several sessions in parallel and something gets messed up, or you want to bring over something from another session that you think the other session should know about, that's how you do it. And in order to get session down there, you can just hit /status line and then write down show Claude session ID and then it show the session ID here. And what this is, every chat is stored locally on your machine. So that's an ID that you can see. You cannot access it from outside because it is just local on my machine. So every session that you had, the full chat history is stored on your machine and is accessible through these IDs. And that's what you usually see when you use resume and you want to catch up with another session. These are the sessions based on these session IDs that you can pick up and keep working in. So that's why it asks you, do you really want to start the session from scratch or do you want to compact it first? Because by resuming a session and you launched a new session, it will load in the whole conversation again and there's an upfront cost of tokens, obviously. Okay, here we are. So what is the difference? It made me a table. I could not say make me an HTML table, but I think we have found this. So that's the one from Sonnet and that's the one Opus created. And here we are, 214 comprehensive, 214 items Opus listed versus 47 that were curated. Feature releases, Opus found 41 feature releases versus 26 for Sonnet. Fixes for 84 versus 21. What the heck? So Sonnet didn't even read the whole thing. So I'm wondering if Sonnet actually has a 1 million token window. That's the reason why I'm using Opus and why I use the max content window. So it really, in complex environments, I wanted to understand it full. Here, content items, it didn't add the category at all, versus Opus did 37 content items that we delivered. And here it went through the session logs. That's what they are here for. And here it just went into the release log, change log, backfill. So that's why you cannot really trust what AI brings back to you. You need to have an understanding. What is your expectations that you would expect to get out of it? And this makes then sense to test some every now and then, one model over the other, to decide then for yourself what's the model that I really want to use. All right, many of us are confused, me included a bit, and that's what we want to break down in the chart that maybe many have seen when it comes to the new Sonnet 5 release, to see if there is a reason for all this. But the problem, the confusion that many people have is that the Sonnet 5 on this chart is more expensive than Opus 4.8. So let's break down why. If we look at Sonnet 4.6, these are the different effort levels that these models have. So with a lot more effort, these models can achieve better pass rate for this specific testing. So now the problem is, if I look at this testing and I use Opus with high, that's the standard usage that I use, we end up about 81, maybe a bit more, okay? The problem now is when I'm using high on Sonnet, I'm much lower. With X high, I reach a level which is around 79%, that is higher than Sonnet 4.6 with the maxed out version. Okay, so if we compare now Sonnet 4.6 with Sonnet 5, then Sonnet 5 is more cost effective because I need to spend less than Sonnet 4, than Sonnet 4.6 and get better results. That makes sense. But where it doesn't make sense anymore is, as I said, comparing with Opus 4.8. And then when we crank it up to max effort, we reach the same quality as Opus, but with a much more expensive cost per token. So you see, Opus on high is the same cost as Sonnet X high, but delivers better results. The thing is, this is a very specific use case, and that's why it's hard to argue about this diagram, and only using the model will tell what's the difference. And my big hope is it will be speed. And our belief is in myICOR that it's not the model that really makes the good results. It is actually the folder that you're using it in, where it has the right instructions and the guidelines and the right agents and the skills in order to get the most out of any model that you use. If they say, well, Sonnet is enough to code and so on, and now with these price differences, to me it makes no sense, at least for Opus 4.8 right now, to change anything to Sonnet 5. I will just keep everything on Opus 4.8, and let's see what happens with Opus 5 when it comes to pricing and all these things. That might change, but for now, it's neither speed nor the output quality that convinces me to use Sonnet at all in this environment that I used it here with a professional workspace where I actually get done every day with. I hope this gave you some insights and ideas for your own setup, and if you want to get this folder as I have here, obviously without my personal files, but the scaffold, you can get it for free inside myICOR. Download it, get it started. You have an interface from the get-go. You can use it in Obsidian, you can use it in VS Code, and you will see there's a huge difference using this scaffold with your AI versus just using AI out of the box. I'm curious, did you already test Sonnet 5? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts about it? And are you looking forward to get your hands back on Fable? I surely will do, and I will talk about this in the next video. I catch you over there.